Hey up everybody, and welcome back to the Aldo Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at the Tour of Oman with rider protests, team protests in Bessèges, and just random things going on in Valenciana. It's time to refocus on the Tour of Oman, which maybe is a little bit more predictable. Taking a look at the stage profiles to begin with. It's a bit like, it's very similar to the Alula Tour. We've got a sprint stage to begin with, then we've got a kind of puncher stage in the Yiti Hills won by Amari Capio last year, so you can see some sprinters lasting towards that finale. Then we have up the Eastern Mountain, 4.7 kilometers at 7.6%. It will be a GC day, but that's not the longest or steepest climb, so I expect there to be, not massive time gaps there. Stage 4, we got just a sprint stage. I think there is a little kick up to the line, but realistically that should be one for the sprinters. And then stage 5, up the Green Mountain, won by Adam Yates last year. He also arrives in this race this year. This is where the big time gaps will be made on 6 kilometers at pretty much 10%. So it's pretty much that's going to be where the big GC action is taking place. Also, just before we begin on the riders, thank you for the orders of the award charts. Those are all out for distribution. I'm not sure if any have arrived yet, but they are all out for distribution. So hopefully freaking every can get on it and get them delivered to you all. If you haven't got one already, the link will be in the description to the Etsy shop, the Aldo Cycling Etsy shop, where you can fill in your team as you go along through the warm-up championship and keep a track of your warm-up championship rank as you go through to see which of your teams is really bumping up or tearing down your warm-up championship rank. So go and check out the description in the video for the link to those. But let's talk about the riders. Adam Yates is 26 credits, and I think we're really reaching a point now where, especially with the likes of, say, Mads Pedersen and Bessèges, where the expensive riders really need to absolutely nail it to be worth it. And sometimes, in the case of Pedersen, they aren't. Even in like Valenciana, yes, Almeida is currently leading, spoiler alert. But, Boitrago is doing really well. And is Adam Yates the big favourite to win GC? Yes, but he's the big favourite for that final stage. I'm not really sure about that. The other GC day, I feel like definitely somebody a bit more punchy could still survive there. And also Adam Yates is 26 credits, which even if he won both the climbing stages and the overall GC, he's getting like 600 points at that point, and the daily GC points, maybe he gets up towards 700, so he'd be like vaguely worth it. But I feel like maybe a redistribution of points might be a little bit better, but I think Yates is still the favourite to win, so if you want just an out-and-out favourite, go with Yates. Ulissi, I think, is a very good call for a lot of teams because he usually does quite well in these style of races. He's a very punchy rider, but he can climb quite well, so he also has the benefit where on that Yiti Hills stage, he'll probably be contesting for the sprint there because Astana really need UCI points, so therefore Ulissi needs to be competitive as much as he can, and he'll also need to be up there in GC for them to get the UCI points there as well. So Ulissi I really like because he's also got the motivation to be in good form at this time of year. Uijtdebroeks, he'll finish top 10, at least he should do. There's no time trial for him to lose time on. Uijtdebroeks should be top 10, but I just think that Ulissi perhaps provides a bit more versatility with that extra stage that he could compete in. Whereas Uijtdebroeks, I feel like is definitely, I don't think he's categorically that much better than, say, Godou or Van Zevenont, who are 2 credits cheaper, or Jay Vine possibly. I think there's definitely some value further down, and maybe Uijtdebroeks is in a bit of a weird middle ground, perhaps. But he could also be a bit of a surprise and finish top 5, I reckon. Speaking of, other GC riders, you got Godou and Van Zevenont. Van Zevenont usually goes quite well in this race. He was top 10 last year. Godou was 13th in the Muscat Classic, which was today. Obviously, that'll be referred to quite a bit in this preview, just because it is a good indicator of who's in good form. Godou was 13th there. Groupama FDJ looking really good. overall, so I think they could be a strong competitor for the team classification as well. So I think Godou is a good one for a top 10. So is Van Zevenon. Jay Vine, similarly, I'd say that him and Adam Yates could definitely be top 10. Micah will be more of a domestique. Jay Vine just looked very active in that Muscat Classic, launching a lot of attacks. And I think that overall, he should be a top 10, and UE might go with him instead of Yates. Who knows? The 14 credit riders, I would say that Koi is your safest one. He is, without a doubt, the fastest sprinter in this race, and therefore he should be getting 2 victories on those sprint days, so that's 300 points. He might be competitive on the Yiti Hill stage. He does climb okay, so it's very borderline, but if he can make that stage as well, he'll certainly be worth it. And he could also compete for the points classification. So I think that Koi is your safest 14 credit rider. I'd say the person who might compete him in out-and-out point-scoring ability could be Valentin Padipentler, who was top 10 in the Muscat Classic. And him and Van Zevenon, I think, will both be top 10 in GC. So possibly Padipentler could outcompete Koi just because he could get the GC points. I'd say that Madouas and Micah I would stay away from, just because I think they are domestique, so I'm not even sure if they're in that first group of the Muscat Classic, so a little bit more expensive for my liking. Into the 12 credit riders, you got Alois and Gaviria, so it's a tricky one. If it was just Alois here, I'd say he would be a really safe pick. But the fact that Gaviria's here as well means that I don't know who's sprinting. It might be Gaviria for the flat ones, Alois gets the Yiti Hill stage, but at that point, are they particularly worth it? Gaviria could very well be, I'd say, top 5 on both of those sprints. But for 2 credits more, I would rather try and get Koi for that certainty of getting the best sprinter in the race. But if you wanted to double up, you could certainly go with Gaviria. You could go with Bittner as well. I think both of those are good, good sprinters in this race. They should be top 5. And so I've got no problems with that. Ethan Hayter. Oh boy. We've all been through this, haven't we? We've all put Ethan Hayter on our team. We've all been through the struggle. And, I know there are some people out there. I'm looking at you, Dan, specifically. You know exactly who you are. You're thinking of putting Hayter on. And, are we going to get burnt again? Who knows? I feel like Ethan Hayter is just that, he will just keep bringing you back. And then he might disappoint you again, but you'll just keep coming back. So Ethan Hayter, maybe. I won't be going with him, but maybe some other people will. The marker I do like for this race, it'll be him or Barguil. That'll be their GC leader. That's what Picnic Postinel say in their press release. So it'll be one of the others. The marker's advantage is that he was in the front group of the Muscat Classic today in the finish. Barguil DNF'd. Make of that what you will. But in their press release, they do say that Barguil should be leading GC, and he was top 10 in this race last year, which for a 10 credit rider, I think is a very good choice. But the fact that he DNF'd today doesn't fill me with lots of confidence, but that doesn't mean that he's in bad form. It could just be that he was never supposed to do well today, like he wasn't going to be the leader, and he's just saving himself for the Tour of Oman, which starts tomorrow. So who knows, really, in regards to that. You've got the Arkea duo of Yenfi Beermans and Amari Capio. Beermans was in that front group today. Capio was not. And again, they both provide a sprint option for Arkea, but very similar to Movistar. The fact that there's 2 sprinters generally puts me off because I don't know who this team is really going to be protecting or who's going to be a lead-out man. In theory, I would say that Capio would be the sprinter, but there's just no way of telling, to be honest with you. I do like Marco Brenner, German champion. We saw him being very active in Muscat Classic today. He's probably their best option for GC. He's done very well over these sorts of races where there's a pretty calm day and then just one climb at the end. So I think Brenner could certainly be top 10 in GC and maybe gives you a safer choice than Barguil, perhaps. So Brenner, I think, is good. Tudor are obviously on kind of a bit of a run at the moment because they got that win today in the Muscat Classic. You've got 3 Jaco Alula riders. You've got Depreto, Paul DeWalt and Chris Harper. Harper looked very good today. I think he will be fighting for the top 10. Depreto should be their sprinter. I don't think he's that much of a out-and-out flat sprinter, but he'll definitely make that Yiti Hill stage. I think he did last year. So I think that Depreto, he climbs well enough where he could even be top 20, 25 in GC. So maybe Depreto might be one to consider, just because he could get, top 10 sort of across the board, possibly in the stages, that is. Harper, I think he's a very safe one for GC, alongside obviously Bargiel and Brenner. So you got some good value here. Jürgen Nordhagen also didn't finish today, but he is Visma Bike's wonder kid, like 20 years old, and I feel like he could be, he's a really interesting rider. He's a big talent for the future. I'm not sure whether he'll get that opportunity in this race, but I like how George has put him at 10 credits just to kind of cover that, just in case. But I feel like they'll be working for Ita Brooks. But if you're feeling a bit risky, you could go for Nordhagen for sure. Jeanier will be sprinting. Cantor will be sprinting. Nozolo will be sprinting. I'd say Cantor is, on balance, a faster sprinter than these two, and so I'd probably favour him a little bit more. Mollard, I think, will just be a domestique. While Pools, I think they'll just be working for Ulissi, to be honest with you. The 8 credit riders, Blickra is a good sprinter. He was third in 2 of the Mallorca Challenge races, which ended in sprints, and he was also very competitive in the Tour of Britain last year in the sprints. So Blickra should be the sprinter for UNOX. There is also Fred Heim. We'll get onto him a little bit later. Steph Kratz was in the front group today. 8 credit rider. Could definitely be top 15, I'd say. So he's a pretty safe one. Donenworth, he was top 10 today as well. Had a decent kick. Like I said earlier, Groupama could do very well in Team GC. So I think that Donenworth could, again, be a top 15 in GC rider. He was third in GC in the Tour of Britain last year. So he's a very punchy rider and maybe could be a bit of an overachiever, possibly. Francello, what was he, top 10 in the Alula Tour? So he has seen a price increase up to 8 credits from 6. He should also be fighting for a top 10. Guerrero was in the front group today. He's been a bit off the radar the last maybe couple of years, so maybe a little bit lower in value than typically he would be found. So you could go with him because they don't have a big GC leader, and I'd say that Guerrero should be that guy. Hausen will be leading the Q36.5 GC charge. Ploymers, obviously, spoiler alert, he did win today in the Muscat Classic. I honestly had him on my team before that. You'll just have to take my word for it. Just because I was thinking about Yiti Hill stage. And I was like, he could make that. Just because I was thinking of the Grand Prix de Wallonie last year, where he was top 5. And I think that, Ploymers could be very good for that stage and maybe could get involved with the sprints as well. Just because I think he's the fastest guy that Tudor have in this race. So Ploymers, I'm a big fan of for this race. Turgis should be the sprinter for Total Energies. Obviously, the famous 4 credit rider from the Tour de France last year. The 6 credit riders, Wille Berhe. He has done good GC performances in the past. He was 30-something from the Muscat Classic today. I would have a bit more confidence if he was in that front group, but I'd say that the 6 credit riders don't give you too much this time round. Berhe probably gives you the safest GC option out of all of them, so I would recommend him as a safe one. D'Amato, obviously, the 4 credit sprinter from the Alula Tour. Maybe he can actually finish the race this time. Ayob, he's gone down in price from Alula Tour, but he's also a very good climber. There is Fred Heim, the sprinter for UNOX, the other one. It'll be him or Blickra. But honestly, at 6 credits, just because there isn't that much going on here, I would be tempted to risk it on Fred Heim because he was like 6th in the Classica Bruges de Pau last year. So, that was up against like Merlier and Philipsen and stuff like that. So this guy's obviously very fast. So I'd say as an out-and-out sprinter, he might have more speed than Blickra, but you just never know. It'll be one or the other of those. Mullerbran, he was 3rd today, but probably isn't an out-and-out sprinter, so he's more of a puncher, so I just don't see how he'd do very well in the overall sprint. He'll get that Yiti Hill stage, but Ulissi might be a safer bet for them to go with. Again, also trying to get bonus seconds for GC, so I'm not overly sure about Mullerbran getting his own opportunities. Mikel Ace, like, just a side note, like years ago, Tour de l'Avenir, this guy used to, like, he was like in the top 10 of GC, and now he's just dropped off, which is really sad to see. Rondell, I think they'll be working for Brenner, but he was good in the Giro d'Italia Next Gen last year. I think he was 4th on a stage, only behind like Jana Vidar and some other really strong riders like that. So certainly worthwhile thinking about him. And Vinokurov, possibly. Zere was attacking the Muscat Classic. He was 13th today, and I'd say that honestly, that's pretty indicative of somebody who's going to be top 20 GC, so a GC option if you want. Again, very similar to last time. I have looked through all of these Oman national team riders, and I can once again confirm that none of them are worthwhile picking, so onwards. Buglas should be the sprinter for Burgos BH. He might get a couple of top 10s, that's not too bad. But other than him, I mean, you might go with Pepijn Leendelink, because he usually gets him a break. I'm not sure whether he'll be allowed to this time, considering that Van Zevenont, Hayter, and Valentin Padipentula probably all need protecting, but Leendelink usually gets him a break. He won the KOM classification in the Grand Tour of Huangxi last year, so you could go with him. And like I said, you know, in terms of assist points and the team classification, Van Zevenont and Valentin Padipentula look pretty good, so therefore Soudal Quickstep only really need one other guy to be like top 20, top 25 in a stage to be up there in the top 3 of team classification, so Leendelink could easily get some assist points. So I'd say either him, Boog or Buglas probably are the best ones. Just because, I have looked through quite a few of these and I just don't really see that much. But anyway, let's take a look at what I have on my team right now. I have David Gaudu, Diego Ulissi, Olav Koy, Warren Barguil, Ploymers, Van Zevenont, Berhe, Leendelink, and Fredheim. I might change this around just because Barguil, maybe his DNF today doesn't fill me with loads of confidence. Maybe Brenner could be a little bit better. But I'm fairly happy with this in terms of having Gaudu, Ulissi, Brenner, Van Zevenont. You know, that could be 4 guys finishing top 10 in GC. I've got the fastest sprinter in a race with Olav Koy, the guy who informed Ploymers, and then just a couple of kind of guys filling out who I think would be the best of the, I don't want to say a bad bunch, but, you know, the best of the rest, let's say. I don't have Yates in here. I just feel that, you know, I've been burnt maybe a couple of times by picking the most expensive one, and I just feel like, you know, 10 credits between him and Gaudu. You know, I just feel like that's quite a big price drop, and, you know, Gaudu could actually provide better value for money. So that's what I'm going to go with. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section down below. Any riders that I've missed, what teams are you thinking of going with, and also go check out the wall charts, and I'll try and get this out so you guys can watch it in time for the Tour of Oman. And all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Salut!